Hi, everybody. Welcome to My Favorite Mistake. I'm Mark Graven. Our guest today is Pam Hopman. She is the founder of the Hopman Group, and she is based in Tucson. So before I tell you a little bit more about Pam, first off, let me say thank you for being here. How are you?
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a privilege and an honor to be here, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about my mistake.
Well, I know we'll have a story and a conversation about that and financial planning because Pam has over 20 years of experience working as a financial advisor. She has comprehensive knowledge of strategies for retirement income planning, wealth preservation, and estate planning. She holds a designation of Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor from the College of Financial Planning. She has a podcast where she talks about financial issues called Empower You. And she recently launched, I thought this was interesting, a financial mastermind group called The Money Thing. And it says it was formerly called Conversations Over Wine and Chocolate. So I guess the first question is just, well, that other name sounded like a lot of fun. Why change the name?
Oh, I was given some advice that instead of saying it was conversations over wine and chocolate, which it really was. I mean, I used to have a group get together in person, and we would have chocolate as well as other things and wine, and have a conversation. It's predominantly been women involved, and talk about women's financial issues and the lack of training and planning that most women have.
But I guess calling it The Money Thing, it's a little bit more focused and straightforward.
Yeah, but it is pretty, it's like, we got to deal with that money thing, kind of, where it came from.
And there still could be wine and chocolate involved, I guess.
Absolutely. No lack of wine and chocolate.
Yeah, fair enough. I like those things. So, Pam, looking back at your work and your career, what would you say is your favorite mistake?
Well, Mark, first of all, when you talk about a mistake, nobody goes out to make a mistake, although mistakes often teach us so much more than we ever thought they could. I had a thriving financial services practice in Illinois, and I had office in Wisconsin as well. And I had been in the business for a number of years, and I found myself burning out a little bit. So I decided to take a position with a marketing organization that was an insurance marketing organization out of Tampa, Florida. And the first year was great. I was able to go around the country and train people and work with them. And the second year became really a nightmare working for that company. Things changed. They brought on some people that I didn't get along with for professional reasons. And I found myself looking at leaving that company. And I did. And then I relocated to Tucson and started up again, which I don't recommend that too often because it was really tough. I had to start up in 2010, which was the height of the recession.
Right.
But we did, and we did great. And, the company... So I really learned a lot, even with that mistake. I learned what I really truly wanted to do, which was run this practice, and some other things as well that I'll let you ask me some questions and tell you some other things that we learned.
Sure. There's a lot I think we can sort of dig into different phases of that story. I guess first off, I mean, I lived in Phoenix for 4 years. Moving there is probably not a mistake, especially weather-wise, even with the summer, right?
No, it's not a mistake. I even like the summer here.
Yeah, I find that the summer is easier to deal with than in Illinois or a Michigan winter, which I've experienced.
Yes.
Well, I think going back to the time when you were running that business and had the practices in Illinois and Wisconsin, what do you think, was there anything particular that led to the burnout?
I was just trying to do it all. I wasn't scaling the business well at all. I was too much, my hands were in too many different pots, and I was trying to split my time between the two offices. I didn't have anybody that could be in the other office full time. It just took too much out of me. And then I was like, well, maybe I just don't want to do this. Maybe I just want to train people to do this. And so that's the reason I took the position that was offered to me.
Yeah, stepping away to be an employee is less of a maybe 24/7 mental load than owning a business and being responsible.
I had some kind of idea that I would do it for about 10 years, and then I could just go right off into the sunset and do whatever I wanted to.
Yeah. So then I mean, it's not like there were different lessons learned along the way. So before coming back to talking about that position that you took, Did you, what have you done to apply the lessons from the first go around to the second go around here in Arizona? Do you try to guard against falling into that, what you'd done before of trying to do it all yourself?
Absolutely. I have scaled my business now. I have an assistant that's been with me almost 11 years. We also have another person that works in the office. And then I have 2 associates that I've trained. And we'll probably bring on a third by the end of this year. So we've actually gone from being a solopreneur all the way into somewhat of an enterprise at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and that's what the podcast is all about is, reflecting on learning from the lessons. And, you had an opportunity, a second go around to at least not fall in the same trap. I was about to say, do things better. I'm sure there were a lot of things that you were doing well that first time, but at least not getting yourself on the burnout path again. Mm-hmm. And then looking at that time, the intermission, if you will, where you had the job, do you think back at putting aside the first firm and taking that job as a mistake, or was it a mistake maybe to not leave sooner when it became a nightmare, as you put it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know. I think it was a mistake to take the job. I think if I had the right training and the right coaching at the time, because I'm somebody who always has a coach, if I'd had the right coaching, I could have been coached through that. I mean, it was a thriving practice. I was number one woman in the industry in my particular group. So it wasn't like I wasn't failing at all. It was just like, it just got to be, I think I'm going to just do something different. And the reason it was a mistake for a couple of different reasons. That was one. The other was that I got stiffed on the sale of the practice because the other person was involved with the same group, and I became an employee that was taking care of that person. So I sort of got stiffed on the sale.
Oh, no.
And then the company that I worked for started to change quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that was part of the mistake for them, but it was also part of the mistake that I learned from.
Yeah.
Because they stopped listening to the field. And when you
the people that were working out in the field.
Right. When you stop listening to the field, you lose touch, and eventually you can go out of business. This company's now out of business, by the way, the one I went to for. I was the first person to ever voluntarily leave the company after 2 years, but they have now gone out of business.
Yeah. Because
I just saw things happening that were like, I'm like, this isn't going to work. They're not going to stay. But that's also some lessons I took into my new company, the one I started here in 2010. I took all that information about how to run a company, how to manage a team, and that I've had great coaching since then from another organization. And that was part of the reason I've been so successful here in Tucson.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And that dynamic you talk about of stopping listening to the people who do the work, or never listening to the people who do the work, that's a problem in many industries. I mean, I think of my career path when I was in manufacturing. Frontline employees in some of those settings weren't respected, weren't listened to, and it was to the detriment of the company. I've spent a lot of time the last 15 years in healthcare as a trainer and consultant and coach. Sad to see similar dynamic. The education level is higher of nurses and doctors and pharmacists, and there's that similar complaint of not being listened to, and I think we need to help change that. Apologize for climbing. I get up on a soapbox about that sometimes.
Well, there's something to be said for bottom-up management as opposed to top-down.
Yeah. So I wanted to delve a little bit into, you say now you always have a coach. When did you, when you started this practice in Tucson, is that when you decided to start having a formal coach so that you could work through issues that, that you weren't able to work through the first time?
Well, I think
different issues.
Well, I was always in an organization or with a coach from the beginning.
Okay.
And I was doing that in Illinois as well, where I had my first practice. But I'm now starting my 6th year with the same coaching group, and they really are the ones that have taken me from solopreneur to being the size company that I am now, with more growth to come. And so, you got to find the right organization
And is that an organization that's focused specifically on financial planners and organizations like yours?
No. This is an organization. Can I say the name? I don't want to.
It's up to you. Sure.
So I work with Allison Maslin's Pinnacle Global Network, and the Pinnacle Global Network is all kinds of businesses, all industries. And when we have a mastermind and we have a mentor, and the mastermind is all different industries. You're not with people in your same industry for the most part. And I have to tell you, it's very refreshing to get opinions that aren't coming from everybody doing the same thing. So there's a little bit of need for creativity on my part, and that develops in this group, where it wasn't going to develop in a group that's all financial services.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I have a friend of mine who owns a dental practice in Jacksonville, Florida. And he got tired of, as I've interviewed him before in a different podcast and talked to him about this. If he was going to dental conferences, he was hearing many variations of basically the same ideas over and over again. And he was looking for, really radically better performance and not just to copy what some other practice did. So he actually looked to Toyota as a model and an influence in some of the practices that come out of that. And the thing he had to do was figure out how to apply these lessons. He wasn't reading a book that was telling him exactly what to do as the owner of a dental practice. It required creativity, and he engaged his staff to figure it out together. How do we apply these management ideas from a different industry into a dental practice? And he's been really wildly successful since doing that.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we've included what we could call financial coaching inside of our business. One of my associates coaches women in their finances. I wrote a book called Wealth Amplified, which is all about getting women to a level where they can start to save more and be more comfortable with their finances. I mean, the job that I had for those 2 years, it taught me a lot about using personality assessments to not just pick people for the job, but to actually work with people within the job based on the way they process information. So I was able to create something called the Money Profile, which is basically a behavior analysis for financial behavior. And so I've been able to do that. And those things I never would have learned if I hadn't made that mistake.
So there's another benefit that came from that detour, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Pam, what in your mind, what distinguishes financial coaching from financial planning?
Well, there is a somewhat of a distinction. Financial planners, for the most part, are working with your wealth. They want you to have something before you go to plan, and they want to make sure that you're going to continue to grow that, and they want to give you insight into how much you need to add to it and where you're going to use it going forward. And depending on what your goals and dreams are around finances, they want to be able to make sure that you can achieve that and show you different pathways to get there. I do that. But I also sometimes, not as many, but I'll work with men or women who want to get to the point where, I don't think I have anything. I'm not ready yet for a financial planner. Well, then you could be ready for a financial coach, that coach will help you work with your income and your expenses and show you where you might be making a couple of mistakes that if you changed a little bit of your behavior around your finances or even your decision making, that you could achieve whatever financial dreams and goals you have. So we like to work with a vision. What is your retirement vision? What is your future financial vision? And we work backwards from there.
Yeah. So before somebody can have their wealth managed, they need to accumulate some wealth. And that sounds like maybe that's where financial coaching comes in. And it sounds like that's a very helpful service to provide where, it's probably easier to work with people who already have wealth.
Oh, sometimes, yes, very much so.
Yeah.
It's much more lucrative to work with people that have wealth too, I'll be honest. But
right.
I have my makeup is I want to make sure that people get. So our company has no minimums to work with us. We do that on purpose because anybody who's willing to take our advice, who wants to come in and learn how to do better, we want to be able to help them do it.
Well, that's great, and yeah, easier, more lucrative. Yeah, it's maybe, but it's good that you're willing to work with others and help them, move up in that through their career up to till retirement. So that's great.
Yes, some of our most recent clients are in their 20s, and I'm really thrilled because they're getting such an early start on what they can do.
That's great. That's great. So you mentioned earlier financial planning mistakes, and I thought while we had you here as an opportunity to pick your brain as an expert about this, one of the mistakes would be starting too late. If somebody's not starting.
Yeah, and that's back again, that point I made. I've been in organizations where people come up to me often and they say, I don't have enough to work with you, or I don't have enough to plan. And the fact is, if you don't start planning, you'll never have enough. So it's like the chicken or the egg. Well, it's definitely the planning should be part of that conversation. And, people think that they have to, the prevailing idea is get out of debt and then save.
Mm-hmm.
I don't work that way. I think you should get out of debt. I think you should save, but I think you should have fun in life too. And so I make sure that whoever I work with isn't just stuck with getting out of debt and saving, but actually has a life worth living.
Interesting. So how do you talk someone through kind of finding that balance?
Well, that's part of the vision and that's part of the lifestyle. We have, we're sort of clever in that we change the words of like a budget is called a spending plan because that's really what a budget is.
Mm-hmm.
You can get behind a spending plan. They may hear the word budget and just go, no, I can't do a budget. It's too hard, but I can write down what I spend and what I spend it on. So it's a spending plan. And so we go through some clever things like that. We talk about the balance between saving and spending and getting out of debt, and then also rewarding yourself when you reach certain milestones and having some fun in the meantime. I think that some of the main people that talk about finance forget about that part. They forget about how important it is for people to enjoy their lives and not just like put their nose to the grindstone and just go in that direction.
Yeah.
It might take you a little longer to reach your financial goal, but that's your choice. I mean, you can cut out all the fun stuff, but most people can't do that for a long period of time. And then they cannot follow through on their financial plan.
Yeah. It seems like there are parallels there to, let's say, weight loss. You could write down everything that you eat and you could track the details about that. And somebody could really deprive themselves of so far this year, I'm really trying to avoid sugar. Right. And that's a choice and I'm doing it for reasons and I don't feel too deprived, but I could see where if somebody really felt deprived, that it would be, as you put it, hard to sustain, whether it's budgeting or eating differently, eating better.
Yeah, you can make small changes quicker and more lasting than big changes.
Yes.
So if you start to make the small changes, they add up over time. So I started a plan this year where to get into better health, I would do 1 push-up and 1 squat and then add 1 every day. I'm up to 33.
Yeah.
So I know by the end of the year, I'll be up to 300 something. But right now, every day I commit to doing 1 more. And, that's going to have me be healthier because you decide once and you commit twice. So I decided to do it and I commit for at least 2 days. Then at the end of the 2 days, I committed for another 2 days. And so that way it just becomes a habit. Like I can't even not do it now after this. But
that new habit is built 2 days at a time.
2 days at a time.
Well, there's a real powerful psychology behind, the idea of baby steps and starting small. In a different podcast series, I've been able to twice interview a psychologist from UCLA named Robert Moorer, and he talks about the way our brains work, and we get afraid of change, even if change is arguably logically positive. Our reptile brain kicks in, and his lesson is the only way to work around that is to make the change small. So your story, Pam, reminds me exactly of his advice to patients. Is if he were to say you need to start exercising 45 minutes a day every day, Like that seems overwhelming. People get scared and they shut down and they don't start. And he recommends to people similar to your approach. If you're watching TV on the couch, get up and walk in place for 30 seconds during a commercial. And you won't get healthy doing that, but it's a start. And then you build confidence and you build it up and build it into a habit. So the idea is what's one other example? Can I bring it back to the financial planning realm of like baby steps to developing a new spending or saving habit?
So the first is to start. The second is it doesn't have to be big because that's overwhelming. So baby steps. And the third is make it automatic if you can, so that you don't really have to think about it. Most people have an easier time when it's automatic. So for instance, let's say you're going to get a raise. Commit to half of that raise going towards savings, and then have it automatically set to go there, whether it's your 401k or your IRA or your savings account, and work it that way so that, again, we're making it as easy as possible for people to succeed. We don't want you to be overwhelmed. Like if I had said I'm going to do 300 push-ups and squats on day one, I would have done it. But if I said I'm going to start and add one per day, similar to adding, okay, I'm going to add $50 a month right now. And then when I get my raise, I'm going to add another $50 a month to whatever savings plan I want to add to. That's much more palatable and it's easy to digest. And before you know it, you've got real money going into your savings in your future.
Yeah. That's brilliant. And if you did try to do those 300 squats, you would hurt so much the next day that you might not be able to exercise for a week, because I've been guilty of that if you overdo it. So one other question, Pam, when it comes to financial mistakes, I'm curious, like do people manage to invent new mistakes, or are they kind of old mistakes in kind of popping up again? I think of like recently you see in the news, I haven't fallen into any of these, let's use the word mania of like, people investing in a stock that was become a phenomenon online and the fundamentals aren't there. Should we be investing in an individual stock? Or if people look at new kind of glamorous things like, Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, are these kind of just new flavor of old mistakes, or what are your thoughts on some of these things that have been in the news?
Well, I'll say one thing around all of that. First of all, you need a base. If you want to invest long-term and you want a base. And a base would be a well-diversified portfolio of some kind, not one stock. Not two stocks, but well-diversified portfolio. And it's great if you work with a financial advisor like us, we make sure that's where you start. You want to build up a base that's pretty secure. You want to have an emergency fund. You got to have an emergency fund. If you want to invest in GameStop or if you want to invest in Bitcoin, you better be willing to lose every dime you're putting into it, because it's very speculative. And it really is not a place where you put your rent money, your mortgage money in. You just don't do that. I think the case is still out for Bitcoin. It's becoming more and more mainstream. I don't know, the prices got inflated with Elon Musk saying he purchased $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin this last week, and it was reported in he had to report it to the SEC, so it became public knowledge. And then, of course, the price went up tremendously and it's still up a little bit. As this morning, it was still up. But it's something I'm trying to learn more about, because I think it is going to replace some of the transactions with cash. And, I'm not necessarily telling anybody to invest in it. Don't take this as advice. It's just I'm trying to learn more about it, because I think it's going to be around for a long time. Now, Dogecoin, the other one that he has, the one that's a joke, and there's nothing behind it, and people are still buying it, and the price is going up. That one is probably going to go away at some point, because there's actually nothing backing it, whereas Bitcoin has data behind it. So, there's lots of crazy stuff out there. Don't get caught up in fads. Don't get caught up in that stuff. Start off with something that's got a proven track record, that's been around for a while, and that's a well-diversified portfolio, or buy your, well-diversified mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, whatever. If you have a little money you want to play with and you want to buy a stock here and there, go ahead and try it. But even the best of stock pickers usually get 1 out of 4 right. So that means you get 3 out of 4 wrong.
Yeah, yeah. So that's great advice, Pam. I feel like I have no standard legal disclaimer like some of the financial shows or whatever. So let's to the audience pretend like you're hearing one of those that you might hear on a CNBC show or some radio show about finances. None of this is financial advice. Blah blah blah. Don't sue us.
Pretty much. Do not take any of this as your advice to you personally. You need to talk to someone who knows your personal situation, can do a thorough fact finder with you to determine what would be the best kind of investment you should make, if any, at this point in your life. Do not take anything I've said as advice.
Yeah. All right. Very good. But I think you shared, I think a really interesting story, Pam, about, some of your career arc and, kind of emphasizing the idea of learning from mistakes and not repeating them the second go around, the second chance that you have with the business here in Tucson. So our guest today has been Pam Hopman. Again, she's founder of the Hopman Group. You can learn more about Pam and her work and the things that they offer at thehopmangroup.com. So Pam, really enjoyed it. Thank you for sharing your story and some thoughts on possible financial mistakes with us today.
Thank you, Mark, for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Okay, well, good. Thanks.